Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson. No Monday presser today, but man, it's still been a Monday. Yeah. Still kind of recovering from the trip. We had a great trip. We didn't have a good ball game. We're going to talk about all of that stuff. But yeah, let's get out and go enjoy what we do. It's a great time. Jacob Bain went with me. It was his first time ever at Kyle Field. And he says, hey, it's a bigger version of Mississippi State out here. The maroon and white helps, but of course being land-grant schools do as well. But it was a good time. We went and watched Camden Capehart play. He's been a little bit banged up. He wasn't very involved in the game, but it was still nice to go visit with him and have an opportunity to do so, at a football game. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it is. Had a chance to meet his mom, his grandparents. They're all super excited about him coming to Mississippi State. So a lot to talk about today. We got some recruiting news that we'll talk about on the back end of the show. We'll break down the game. We'll look around the Southeastern Conference, talk a little baseball too, a little bit. And maybe we should do that now. Yeah, if we had a scrimmage last night, I put a video out there. Jack Bauer, in his warm-up tosses, was hitting 100 on the gun, kind of effortlessly too. And watching him, I was very encouraged because a lot of time when you see these high-intensity pitchers, high-effort guys, mechanically at times they kind of break down. He doesn't have a lot of flaws mechanically. I'd like to see him get a little more bend, get a little farther down the slope, and that's just going to come in time, right? But, yeah, he hit 101 on the gun one time. And, of course, I put the video out there, and immediately, there, we get, Johnny Holfan, comes out, go ahead and schedule his Tommy John surgery and blah, 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 blah. I don't know why we always have to be so negative. I don't get it. I don't get it. Put it out there so you guys can enjoy it. It's like, hey, this is legit. And it is. And he's here. And he's a great young man. I don't know why automatically the self-loathing segment of our fan base has to come out with some negative comments. I don't get it. I don't. I'm glad I'm not married to you. I can tell you that. Glad I'm not married to that nonsense. That no matter how good something is, no matter how exciting something could be, no matter how happy we are to have a positive development, that you got to find a wet blanket to go throw on everything. Really glad I'm not married to you. Glad that I didn't procreate with you, have to raise children with you, because every time that kid scored a goal, you'd be worried about him getting hurt. Get the net, man. It's crazy. But yeah, we swung the bats pretty well, but it wasn't a great offensive game. I thought we pitched it really well. Charlie Foster's doing well. I didn't get to go Friday night. Of course, I was on the road to College Station and out to Manola, Texas, or Mineola. I don't know, whatever you were going to call it. Great little town, too, man. Population about 7,500. Incredible downtown area. Bain and I stayed there instead of venturing down to College Station that night, having to, pay the hikes. You know what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter where you stay, as long as you get there. I said, yeah, let's just stay here. Well, then we find out that there is the marching band competition there at Minola High School. So every hotel room in the area was booked up. But we found an Airbnb with 2 bedrooms, which is great. We took care of that, and we stayed there at the on about a mile and a half from the high school. Had some great Italian food at Val's. If you're ever in Minola, you can go to Val's, and he is Italian, so it's authentic Italian cuisine. It was fabulous. I had a flatbread pizza. Bain had the stromboli, as big as my laptop. And then I went to a little oddity shop and got the bride something, and then also found an antique radio in there that I got at a killer price. And then come to find out, we get it home and it works. Craziness, man. So it's in a spa if you want to go by and check it out. But nevertheless, super cool find. It looks great. I don't know if it's a real antique or if it's a replica, but either way, it's old and it's fun and it works. And she was thrilled. That's the part of taking those trips, right? I don't know when else I'm going to be in Minola, Texas ever again. And that'd be a shame because it was a great town. People were great. But, you mark the trip, right? You get something cool. And like one day, hey, that's a cool radio. Where'd you get that? Well, as a matter of fact, I got a story behind that. I bought that at an oddity shop in Minola, Texas. Well, where's that? Fun stuff. But, we enjoy what we do. We have a good time when we go do it. Win or lose, we enjoy going out and covering Mississippi State for you and being your eyes and ears with so much to talk about. So we'll go ahead and jump into the show. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company. My plan is to enjoy Bulldog Burger Company on Tuesday of this week. That's the plan. After all this travel, I'm a little peaked and need to ramp up the beauty care regimen. I got home Sunday morning at 9:40. I went right to the spa and floated for about 2 hours, and then come home and took a nap and went to baseball in a scrimmage. But I need some Bulldog Burger Company in my life. And you do too. Even if you didn't make some overnight trip, you need it. I have seen some of you as of late, and the pictures you post on Facebook, with or without filters, need a little work. The spring rolls can kind of cure what ails you. I need some spring rolls. I might just get 2 orders of spring rolls just to kind of get caught up. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Richmond Flowood area. Find your own favorites. I am leaning towards the Bryant right now, but at the moment of truth, I may change. I may. When you get ready to order, sometimes you're like, there's so many options to choose from. I don't want to have, fear of missing out. So if there's something new, I may jump on that. You need to find your own favorites. If you're a newbie to Bulldog Burger Company, the Bulldog is the way to go. You can't go wrong with the Bulldog. Like if you only ate the Bulldog every time you had a burger the rest of your life, you will have lived life more abundantly. It's true. But if you want to branch out a little bit and expand your horizons, let me encourage you. Maybe get the Freshman 15. Maybe get the Pimentology Ad Bacon if you think you're man enough. Yeah, if you are, we'll see. We'll see. And get that chocolate shake to go. You can ride that ride home with a smile. Bulldog Burger Company, a place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. Okay, let's go ahead and break down the game as much as we may not want to. There are still some things that we can learn as we discuss kind of what happened. And it was so frustrating, and it's like the thing that I keep reminding myself and those around me, we're 1 play away from being 5-1. 1 play away from being 5-1. And that wasn't against Texas A&M. We had a chance to win in regulation, against Tennessee, and lost that game in overtime, as you guys know. But we're 1 play away from being 5-1. And if I told you beginning of the year, hey, if we could be 4-2 at the first open date, how would you feel? You would say, Steve, I'd take it right now. But what happens is you begin to play the games and you can't look at things. Maybe you see the tree instead of the forest because you're looking at what's right ahead of you, right? It's difficult to have perspective week to week. And so I think this open date maybe gives us a chance to kind of take a breath and kind of conduct an inventory of where we are. So we sit atop the press box area there at Kyle Field, and yes, it does sway. It really does. And makes me feel old. I am the only person who covered that game that had ever been to Kyle Field on the Mississippi State beat. I think it's also an honor, too, to be able to pass that down to young people and say, hey, it really does move back and forth. Don't be alarmed. We're not having an earthquake. And it was kind of fun to see their faces. Like, hey, it really does do it. Yeah, it does. That's the cool thing about, being able to go to all these SEC venues, man. It's such an honor and a privilege. It really is. All right, so here we go. A&M wins a toss and defers, so we're back on extending the streak. It got snapped, and then we started a new streak. So here we are, and Levy wants the ball first. It's funny, defensive-minded coaches a lot of times want it second. Offensive coaches want it first. We want the ball. All right, 1st and 10 from the State 25. And again, there wasn't a lot of kick returns in this ball game. There was one late, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But, good job for the kickers. Thought special teams-wise, State played pretty well in this game. We'll get to that too. But 1st and 10 from our 25. Fluff off the left for 13 yards. And you feel pretty good about life. It's already 1st and 10 at their 38. And then Blake Shapen is sacked. First time back, and you get sacked. 2nd and 16, we go back to Fluff. And what is your play on 2nd and 16, right? Because at 2nd and 16, you're thinking, I got to get in 3rd and manageable. But when you've been sacked on the first play, you don't want to get into a second or third and 30, right? We give it to Fluff, he gets 3. Third and 13, we're sacked again, end up in a 4th and 20. And then Ethan Pulliam gets off a 46-yard punt. Casey Concepcion with a return there. However, it's negated due to a holding call. That makes it 1st and 10 at their 15. So the net change there is really good. Even though State didn't get but the 1 first down, you get the opportunity to pin them back. And Bulldog defense came to play. Le'Veon Moss gets loose for 20 yards, and I think Moss may be a little bit banged up. I do. I just watching him play live, it's a little different than watching it on film. He just doesn't seem to be quite as explosive, and I love that guy. I think he's a great player. But he gets 20 yards. However, Tony Mitchell on the tackle there, but it's negated another holding call. Now it makes it, all the way back to the Texas A&M 8, and it's 1st and 17, and you're feeling like, great, we got him pinned back. We can get a stop. Maybe we can get the ball around midfield and put some points on the board. All right, 1st and 17, they get it out to Concepcion for 12 yards, and that can't happen, right? That cannot happen when you've got them pinned back deep. You can't give up a double-digit gain there. Well, we do. 2nd and 5, they're flagged for illegal substitution. They broke the huddle with 12 players. That made it 2nd and 10, and then Reed up the middle for 9. And I thought we did a pretty good job making him be a quarterback, and I didn't think he was a difference in the game. I thought we did a good job defending him. 3rd and 1, Moss up the middle for 6. Tony Mitchell, again, making a good play there, playing in place of Isaac Smith. Now, 1st and 10 from their 30. They run a little end-around play to Concepcion. He gets 16 yards. 1st and 10 from the 46, and it's incomplete. 2nd and 10, it's incomplete. 3rd and 10, it's incomplete. And again, I watching Marcel Reed the last couple of weeks, I think if in the event they lose, and at some point I believe they will, I think he will be instrumental in the loss. I don't think that he is especially comfortable without the run-pass option element. I just don't think he can sit back there and be a quarterback. And I thought we did a good job. When we did get him on the move a little bit, we forced him to be uncomfortable and throw some balls off target. Accuracy has not been a strong point for him. I thought that really mattered in this ball game. All right, 4th and 10, and because we've given up a couple of big first downs there, they're able to flip the field on us. Fair catch by Anthony Evans at the State 11. And then State all of a sudden puts together one of the better drives of the ball game. And at this moment, you start thinking, okay, maybe we figured some things out. Maybe we figured some things out. All right, 1st and 10, even though we're backed up, we get it out to Aiden Williams. That gets us 3. 2nd and 7 from the 14. We get it out to Brennan Thompson for the first down. That moves the sticks. 1st and 10 from the 24. It's now Booth's turn in the rotation. He gets 2. And on 2nd and 8, we get it out to Anthony Evans, who gets 7. I thought we got a bad spot there. But it's 3rd and 1, so it proves to be of no consequence because then Booth gets loose for 22 yards, and it felt like he was going to get loose for the touchdown, and then the turf monster grabs him. The Texas A&M logo trips him up at midfield. And I do believe he was going to score there. I really do. All right, 1st and 10 from their 45. We get it out to Evans for 7, makes a very manageable 2nd and 3. Fluff now in the ball game after that long burst from Booth, and Fluff gets 8. 1st and 10 at their 30, and Bulldogs going in here. Bothwell for 6, then back to him for 7, which makes it 1st and 10 in the red zone at the Texas A&M 17-yard line. Now Booth comes in place of Bothwell. We swing it out to him and get 9 yards. Now it's 2nd and 1 inside the 10 at the A&M 8. We go back to Booth, who runs ahead, makes it 1st and goal from the 6. Booth then fights ahead for 4. And I thought we ran it pretty strong between the tackles. I don't think our problem has been interior line play. I think Boone and the guards have played well. That's Jacoby Jackson and Zach Owens majority of the time. They flip-flopped this week, but good push there. Now it's 2nd and 2. We give it to Fluff. You think we're going to get in. We don't. We're inside the 1. And then we decide, okay, let's bring in Camario. And I was happy to see it. And then we get a false start. That makes it a 3rd and 6. We bring Chapin back in, and then we can't hit Aiden Williams for the touchdown, have to settle for a field goal. And I begin to think then, I told Sam Sklar and Colin and everybody else, I said, you're not going to win on the road in the SEC kicking field goals. We needed to get this thing in the end zone. In this situation, though, you got to take the points and get a lead, reward your offense as well as your defense, and then put them on their heels a little bit too, because if you get stopped on a goal line stand, it ignites the home crowd. Field goal is good. It's 3-0 State. Kickoff, of course, is a touchback. So now we need the defense to kind of make it hold up. We had a really good defensive possession here. From their 25, again, it's incomplete, trying to get it out to Craver. And on 2nd and 10, they give it to Owens, who I really thought was maybe the difference in this ball game. I thought Ruben Owens really played well for A&M. But it's 3rd and 9 here after a 1-yard gain. And then they take a shot with Mario Craver and Jerron Manning on the coverage here. Doesn't get a pass breakup, but did a really good job. And you think Craver paired up on a safety is at advantage A&M, and it is. But the throw is long. There is no play to be made. It's 4th and 9, and it's a 50-yard punt, fair call at the State 24. So the Bulldog defense rewards the offense after that 3-0 advantage by getting a 3-and-out. And so now, again, State now a chance to make it a 2-score game. 1st and 10 from our 24. Chapin gets flushed and is off the right side for 1. And then we bring Ricky Johnson, who we hadn't played a whole lot. We thought he would be a guy that would really step up and maybe be a 3rd or 4th receiver in his offense for us this year. He gets absolutely annihilated here. At first I thought it was a face mask, and I saw the replay and just wasn't. It was just a very violent tackle, but it's a loss of 7 yards. Makes it 3rd and 16. We give it to Fluff and set up a punt. And then Ethan Pulliam, 61 yards on the punt. And Concepcion lets it roll, much to their peril. And so it's touchdown at the A&M 16. Final drive of the first quarter. A&M put some things together. All right, 1st and 10 from their 16. It's complete to Craver for just 8 yards. And on 2nd and 2, they bring Moss back in. He gets 5 up the middle. Makes it 1st and 10 from the 29. They take a shot with Concepcion. Kelly Jones on the coverage there. Ball falls incomplete. Your final play of the first quarter is 2nd and 10. Ruben Owens up the middle for 4, and that flips it over. A&M facing a 3rd down when we come back, and you felt like, okay, if we can find a way to get off the field here, we've got a real chance. And we did. We did have a chance, and we should have been able to get off the field. We have a bit of a freshman mistake here. We flush Marcel Reed, and Tyler Lockhart gets to the sideline, and I thought it was kind of a soft call, but they're always going to be erring on the side of caution when it comes to quarterbacks. Reed is not giving himself up. He's being run out of bounds, and he kind of turns back into Lockhart, and Lockhart hits him in the white. That ends being a 15-yard penalty. So instead of the punt return team coming on, the defense stays on the field. And you begin to kind of wonder just a little bit, how would that have changed the complexity of things in this first half? If we discussed on the Boneyard on Friday, A&M has outscored every opponent this year in the second quarter. Well, that continued in this ball game. But what happens if we get, let's say, what if we got into the locker room at 10-0? I don't know. The drive continues. Now it's 1st and 10 from the State 49. So again, instead of A&M punting from their 36, they're snapping from our 49. Owens off the left side for 6. Back to him for 5. Moves the sticks. Former A&M Aggie, Malik Sela on the tackle there. And Jerry Bledsoe, former Texas Longhorn. They get it out to Terry Bussey. He gets 13 yards, and he's just kind of a guy that averages a couple catches a ball game. Tony Mitchell again with the tackle. They give it to, on 1st and 10, they give it to Owens again, who gets 8. Makes it a 2nd and 2. Moss then off the right side for 4 to move the sticks. So no huddle. They were a little tempo here. 6-yard gain out to Casey Concepcion. Makes it 2nd and 4. Moss ahead for 2. Makes it a 3rd down. And again, a chance for us to get off the field. Unfortunately, we're not able to get it done. It's a 3rd and 2, but they get 3 to move the sticks. And then next thing you know, Moss is ahead to the 1-yard line in a 1st and goal situation. They go back to him for the score. They reviewed the play, and he did not score. It's a big call at the time. So 4th down, they decided to go for it. And your Bulldogs, more than up for the challenge, they get Owens in the backfield for a 1-yard loss. It's a turnover on downs, another goal line stand for this Bulldog defense. So the penalty, while it extended the drive, It did not lead to points. State backed up inside the shadow of their own goalpost. 1st and 10 from our 2. We give it to Fluff up ahead for 1. Back to him for 2. Makes it a 3rd and 7. We decide to take a little bit of a shot there. There was contact here. I thought there was PI. I expected the flag to come out. Some other people around me said, and they were both kind of hand fighting a little bit. I thought it was a PI. I did. But I'm an unbiased observer, right? No, I'm not. I'm a Bulldog. But 4th and 7, we just need to get a good punt away here, right? So Ethan Pulliam, 53-yard punt. But we don't get down and cover it. Concepcion gets loose for 43. However, there is a penalty. Holding on A&M. Backs it up from our 40 to the 50. So they take over at midfield, and I'm sure they were feeling great about life at this point. It's like, okay, this has been a defensive battle so far, and in the battle of field position, we have now won it. We're taking over essentially in plus territory. Let's go make it count. On 1st and 10, they give it to Ruben Owens off the left side for 4, which makes it a 2nd and 6. And then Marcel Reed is picked by Kelly Jones. I would like to have seen Kelly Jones get a little more block in there and get loose. But huge play for Kelly Jones and for Mississippi State. And so now here you are. You have turned in a goal line stand, and you've come back and gotten a turnover, a key point in this ball game, and it was really, really quiet in Kyle Field. 1st and 10 from our 27. Booth off the left side for 3. Back to him for 1. Makes it a 3rd and 6. And we kind of catch a bit of a break here too. 3rd and 6. We try to get it out to Brennan Thompson, and then they credit they call it a breakup. But there's roughing a passer too. So now it's a 15-yard penalty. It's 1st and 10 out to the 46, and then Booth ahead for 10. It is now 1st and 10 at their 44, and if you're like me, you were probably feeling it a little bit. It's like, well, here we go. Here we go. We're in plus territory. We're the ones that are moving the ball offensively. Let's go make it happen. And then Blake Shapen hit as he's throwing, and it is picked by Damian Sanford. Cassius Howell, who was incredible, had a big ball game for them, kind of makes it happen. Sadie won the tackles, but now it's, they get the ball out there at 36. And this leads to the first and only touchdown of the first half. And again, this was still kind of herky-jerky. It was far from an absolute execution bonanza. So 1st and 10, it's a false start. So they're behind the sticks. They're just like giving it to us. 1st and 15, they run Owens for 7, which makes it 2nd and 8. I think you could live with that. And then he gets 6. Now it's 3rd and 2. They go back to him, and a chance to get off the field. He fights ahead for the first down. A 3-yard gain there. Makes it 1st and 10 now from the 47. They take a shot here down the field, and Kelly is flagged for PI. And it was just one of those balls kind of thrown up for grabs. I didn't have any disagreement with the call. I think we probably could have played a little bit better. Now it's 1st and 10 at our 38. Owens up the middle for 4. 2-minute timeout happens here, and in 2nd and 6, they take the shot. They just kind of throw it up for grabs, and we seem to have kind of lost the receiver there, and then Concepcion fights ahead into the end zone. Touchdown. Extra point is good. And then State, again, we get the ball. We're down 7-3 with the ball. We can run a little 2-minute drill. But on first down, we're sat. Cassius Howard gets us for a 12-yard loss. They burn a timeout. Shapen in gets flushed. We run ahead for 3. It's 3rd and 19. They call timeout. And then we get it out to Seydu, who gets 9. Makes it 4th and 10 now from the 25, and all you can do is punt. They burn all their timeouts on that, trying to get something going. You need Ethan Pulliam to step up and really pull one out, and he does. Pulliam, again, coming through for the Bulldogs. A 57-yard punt to the 18. They get a little 4-yard return there. But, it was good. Great job by Pulliam, because you begin to think, managing this with them getting the ball first in the second half, with 1:23 to go, they got plenty of time, even with no timeouts, to get into field goal position. However, when they're having to start back at their 22 instead of the 40, you feel pretty good about your opportunities, especially as well as State's defense was playing. 1st and 10 from their 22. It's complete to Craver for just 4 yards. I mean, just not much going on for Craver early on. And then, again, it's a false start. It doesn't just happen to us. Now it's 2nd 11. Reed runs off the left side for 6, and that runs out the half. And so, again, you look at this, and it's like, man, defensively, we're playing our tails off. We get a turnover. We get a turnover on downs. We get beat on one drive on a couple of pass plays. But it's been very limited offensive success. And some of that's got to do with them and Marcel maybe not being the passer they need him to be. But the reality of it is the Bulldogs are right there, and this game was right there for the taking because you had survived that second quarter blitz that A&M has had against everybody offensively this year, and you look up at half, and you're down just 7-3. All right, your second half recap brought to you by Close with Blair. That's C-L-O-S-E with Blair, B-L-A-I-R.com. You can reach out to Blair to solve all your mortgage needs. Nobody stays in any industry 25 years or so just for the fun of it. Blair gets things done. Give him a call or text today at 601-500-2344. Whether you're looking for your first home, your next home, or your retirement home, Blair Chandler is a name to know. Save that number in your phone under the name Mortgage Guy. 601-500-2344. You'll thank me later. We've had several Boneyard listeners that have closed loans with Blair and have had outstanding experiences. There's nothing like having that new place to live and building some equity. We talk about generational wealth and that sort of stuff. That's kind of where it helps, right? You don't want to be on the hamster wheel of renting. You don't. You want to own something someday and be able to maybe sell that and pass that down to your kids or them have the home to deal with. But between now and then, you got to have somewhere to live and get your mail and store all your stuff. It'd be nice to have your own home. Blair Chandler can make that happen for you. That's Blair Chandler at closewithblair.com. Okay, second half, and I walked out, and I said, I was telling Jacob and Sam and everybody, I said, man, this game is right there. If State can get a stop here and be in a position to go score, anything could happen in this ball game. Well, half of that happened. Your defense, again, comes out ready to play. Ends up actually being a 3-and-out with negative yardage. Owens up the middle for 2, and then Reed incomplete again. And then Marcel Reed is sacked. Calvin Dinkins, knifing through there for a 4-yard sack back to the Texas A&M 11. And this is the one time, too, we talked about the return. And I'm sure, I don't know this, but I'm relatively sure, Mike Elko and him were like, hey, let's just try to return it. Let's just, see if we can't set the tone. It blows up in their face because State is covering it well. And we get them inside the 15 and at the 13. It ends up being a loss of 2 on the drive, but they get a nice punt here, 54 yards. Again, special teams for both sides playing pretty well. State takes over to 35. Not the best field position, but certainly not the worst. You feel pretty good about where you're starting. You'd love to have been closer to midfield, but here we are. 1st and 10 from the 35. Fluff up the middle for 8. And on 2nd and 2, we go back to Fluff, who gets 4 more. 1st and 10, now approaching midfield. And then Fluff is hit off the left side for a 1-yard loss. If memory serves me correct, that's the only loss of the game so far by a running back. Of course, you had the Ricky Johnson play and you had Blake Shapen a couple times. But the running game, we knew that it was going to be a challenge, but we're running the ball with some success here. On 2nd and 11, we go back to Fluff for 4, makes it 3rd and 7. And then we get it out to Davin Booth at the 48, but it's a 2-yard loss. Again, Dalton Brooks kind of knifing in there to force the early throw. And so even the check down there, they do a really good job rallying to it. Will Lee, the third, on the tackle. And bring in Nathan Tice. And I was a little bit curious about this, the way Ethan Pulliam is punted. But, Tice is kind of like that short punter, give you a chance to cover it. not as good as we'd hoped, but a 35-yarder, and it's fair caught inside the 17. You want to really pin them back there inside the 10 if you can. And again, the Bulldog defense up for the challenge. They put a little bit of a drive together here, though. 1st and 10 from their 17. They get it out to Craver for just 6. Javen Williams, a nice play there. 2nd and 4. They get it to Nate Boerkirker for 7. That's a first down. 1st and 10, they go to Owens for 7. And then at 2nd and 3, they get it out there to Evans. And he gets loose for 19 yards. Excuse me, out to Owens for 19 yards. 1st and 10, it's a false start. So now all of a sudden, things kind of begin to bog down. You don't look a gift horse in the mouth. But on 1st and 15, Le'Veon Moss off the right side for 5 makes it 2nd and 10. You could live with that. Moss up the middle for just 1. And now it's 3rd and 9. They take a shot to Mario Craver, and again, it's incomplete. 4th and 9 is a 35-yard punt, but it works out more favorably for them because we have to fair catch it at the 8. So on the exchange of punts, we come on the short side of it. 3 and out for the Bulldog offense. 1st and 10 from our 8. We're incomplete. We are complete to Aiden Williams for 7, which makes it 2nd and 3. And you think, okay, let's go make something happen. We have a problem here on the exchange. Ends up being a fumble. We get back on it. It is an 8-yard loss. And again, you kind of begin to wonder, even if it's just an exchange of punts, if you're able to convert there and not get in a 3rd and long situation, maybe things are a little bit different. 3rd and 11 now. We get it out to Anthony Evans, who gets 10 yards. It makes it 4th and 1. And I know you think, man, there's no way you go for this. There's a part of me that thought we should. The way we have been running the football and the fact that it had been so difficult to get anything going, maybe we go for it. But we didn't. We punt, and what do you know? Again, great punt by Ethan Pulliam. And we may have outkicked the coverage here. 58 yards on the punt. And Concepcion with a 13-yard punt gets out of bounds there at the 38. So, again, we're midway through the third quarter here, and it's a one-score game. And it just feels like, you know what, hey, we just needed somebody to make a play. Well, in turn, they make the play. 1st and 10 from the 38. Owens gets loose for 17 yards. And this is where I thought we started getting fatigued. You started seeing a lot of guys break tackles and then reverse field. This was one of them. 1st and 10. They get it out to Craver. This time he's loose for 42 yards, down to the State 3. 1st and goal from the 3. Owens is stacked up after a 1-yard gain on 2nd and 2. They try to get it out to Concepcion, just kind of throw in the little fade to the back pylon. Kelly Jones on the PBU. It's now 3rd and 2, and they get it to Concepcion back of the end zone. I thought we had a chance to pull it out there, but we don't. It's a touchdown. Extra point is good. It's now 14-3. And like all of you, the way we had played offensively, you start thinking that, 2-score game may be too much for us to overcome. 1st and 10 from our 25 after the touchback. Fluff off the right side for a 1-yard loss. Now 2nd and 11. We take a shot to Brennan Thompson. It is incomplete. And on 3rd and 11, we get it out to Anthony Evans, who just gets 6. And on 4th and 5, we punt. Ethan Pulliam again, 49-yard punt. 49-yard punt, fair caught at 21. And then A&M, again, this is when this really kind of felt like the kill shot. It began here at the end of the 3rd quarter. 1st and 10 from their 21. 13 running back Jamarian Morrow comes in and runs for 3. Back to him again for 23. This is another one of those where we had a chance to get him for little to no gain, and he breaks free and gets a big gain out near midfield. 1st and 10 from the 47, back to him for a 1-yard gain. So it's 27 yards for him on just his first 3 carries. 2nd and 9, it's complete to Concepcion for 13 yards, and that runs out the quarter. We headed the 4th quarter with A&M on the move and really in a position to kind of put this game away, and that's exactly what happens here. 1st and 10 from our 39. They get it to Craver for just 3 yards. 2nd and 7, they go back to him again, and it's pretty apparent they're trying to get him into the end zone. Former Bulldog, I get it. 17 yards on the play. Makes it 1st and 10 inside the Bulldog 19. Moss up the middle for 3, and on 2nd and 7, Moss again for 6. 3rd and 1, a chance to force a field goal. However, Moss moves ahead and moves the pile and the sticks to make it a 1st and goal at the 7, and then Marcel Reed runs off the right side, a design play there. 7 yards for the touchdown, the extra point is good, and it's just like, this is it. Bulldogs still continuing to fight here in the 4th, down 18 points. We get it to Anthony Evans, and it's going to be a 1st down. And then Evans fumbles it forward into the waiting arms of Dalton Brooks, who returns at 12 yards to the state 24. Sadie Traore with a handful of tackles in this ball game. It's never a good thing when you got an offensive player making multiple tackles. 1st and 10 from our 24. Owens at the middle for 4, back to him for 4 more, makes it a 3rd and 2. Marcel Reed then gets loose for 9 to move the sticks. 1st and goal, they give it to Craver on the end around. He scores. Extra point is good. Makes it a 28-3 ball game. Give Bulldogs a little credit here. They didn't just go away, though. 1st and 10 from the 25. Thompson on a little bit of an end-around play, a little reverse there, gets the 1 yard. 2nd and 9, Booth up the middle for 15. 1st and 10 from the 41. We get it out to Aiden Williams for 15 yards. Aiden Williams, one of his better games so far. And now that he's healthy, maybe he can be the 3rd receiver. 1st and 10. We go max protect, and we take a shot to Brennan Thompson, who runs by everybody. It is a 44-yard touchdown pass. And then we have, the circus comes to town, and we talk about special teams playing well. We never even got a chance to attempt. It was just a bad snap. I don't know if it was the hold or the snap, and nevertheless, nothing happens here. And they've got the onside team on there, and we're just trying to kick it deep, see if we can run to it, and then Craver leaps and gets it. It's a do or die play. If he misses on that, State's going to recover that thing deep in A&M territory. Give him some credit. He jumps up and grabs it and then just kneels down there. A&M again drives here. At this point, we're completely gassed on defense. We're just completely gassed, and those guys played so hard for 2.5 quarters. 1st and 10 from the 26. Owens for 17, and then back for 6, makes it a 2nd for Owens for then 37. I mean, they're plowing us in the ground here. 1st and 10 from our 14. Amari Daniels for 1, back to him for 3. We take a timeout here. Daniels off the right side for just 1, makes it a 4th and 5. They kick the field goal. 31-9 at this point. State takes over at our 21. Yeah, Davin Booth on a return there from the 3. Why not, right? 1st and 10 from our 21. Blake Shapen incomplete to Sam West. However, there's a PI called. Makes it a 1st and 10 from the 25. We get it out to Fluff for 12 yards. Makes it 1st and 10 from the 37. And then we swing it out to Fluff, and this is the play everybody's talking about. Ends up being a 6-yard loss, and then Fluff is injured on the play. And many of you are kind of waiting to know. The first reports were not very good. And, of course, you get all that secondhand. And on Sunday, of course, after a long drive back, a chance to get a little shut-eye. I did some checking. Nobody really wanted to talk. Of course, you get him in on Monday and let everybody begin to kind of work on him a little bit. And it does appear now, and, of course, there's still more testing to do and treatment to do. It doesn't appear to be season-ending. Now, he's going to miss some time to recover, but I can tell you the mood around the locker room and postgame was not good. A lot of the conversation, not encouraging. But then this morning, after my appearance on the Bo Bounds Show, I had a chance to talk to a couple people, and they goes, this may not be as bad as we first thought. So we'll see. We'll see. Don't get crazy with it, but we'll see. All right, 2nd and 16, Blake Shapen sacked for loss 7. Cassius Howell, again, just kind of teeing off on us. 3rd and 23. We get a little time there to try to get it out to Ricky Johnson, and it's broken up by Jordan Shaw. State punts 41 yards for Ethan Pulliam. And it's so interesting. It's like, that was kind of a disappointing punt. I remember when we would have done anything to have a 41-yard punt. Ethan Pulliam, again, maybe the MVP right now, at least of that game. And then this is it here, guys. 1st and 10, final drive of the game. A&M starts at their 35. Jamari and Morrow ahead for 2, back to him for 1. 2-minute timeout. Craver then runs off the right side for 28 and just gets down in bounds. So at the clock run, and then it's 3 consecutive kneel down to end the game. So that's your ball game. And of course, like all of you, my thoughts are not particularly just about this game, but the availability of Fluff Bothwell the rest of the year. And how do we manage this running back room for the next month or so, or perhaps the next 2 months or so, without Fluff, right? Do you sit Johnny Daniels down? Do you play? Obviously, Xavier Gayton's got to play more. What do you do? Do you use Colin Wilson more? Is Seth Davis getting a few more carries? And again, Seth Davis is not 100%. I mean, some people, and I love all of you, but some of you have kind of fallen victim to maybe some irrational exuberance. We love Seth, but Seth's not quite 100%. Now, can he help us? Yes, he can help us. He can, but there's only so much that he can do right now. I can tell you he desperately wants to play. He desperately wants to be right again, but don't expect him to be the guy right down the stretch. And it's just not time yet, and that's okay. You just got to let him kind of continue to heal. And Levy's talked about it. He's just not quite 100%, and it's been almost 2 years. And for some guys, especially as crazy as that injury was, it's not a typical ACL. It's just a complicated process. And, again, can he help us? Yes. Do we expect him to get a large share of the carries? No. And you got to be fair to the kid. You do. All right, look at inside the numbers here. A&M with 23 first down, State just 14. They got 14 on the ground. We got 8. 7 through the air for them, 4 for us, and both teams with 2 apiece. Rushing, we ran after you back out all the sacks. We ran for just 77 yards. They had 299 yards rushing, and again, a lot of that came late. But Marcel Reed didn't have a great game. 13 of 23 with a pick and 2 touchdowns for 180 yards. Blake Shapen 15 of 20 with a pick and a touchdown, 142 yards. So quarterback play, not really a strength for either team. Total offense, 479 for them, and of course, nearly 300 comes on the ground. Bulldog for just 219. I think it's safe to say, we talked last week, is this A&M really good, or is a lot of that got to do with Auburn? I think it's a combination of both, but I think it's fair to say that this A&M defense may be better than we thought, and certainly better than I thought. They ran 77 plays on offense. We were in 51. So a lot of their plays came late. We couldn't sustain drives, and they're just trying to salt the clock away. We fumbled twice and lost 1. They didn't fumble at all. They had 9 penalties for 66 yards, and that's what's so crazy. State just 3 for 35. Just 3 for 35. Yeah, you finally begin to clean up some penalties, and every other facet of football just didn't work as well as you wanted it to. They punted 4 times for an average of 45.5. State 44.2, and of course, some of those are directional punts, but 4 punts from Ethan Pulliam for 50-plus yards. It's incredible. 2 inside the 20. We had a couple that were fair caught. Kickoffs, of course, we had the little squib there that kind of hurts the average a little bit because we only kicked off 3 times. 56.3 is our average, and theirs is 64.5. 5 touchbacks on 6, and of course there's the one that Booth just brought out. But, individual numbers coming next, but we talk about how time of possession is not the big deal that it once was. It was in this ball game. 38 minutes of possession for A&M. State has it just 21 minutes. And again, you look at it, midway through the third, you're right there, and you just got to find a way to sustain drives. We weren't able to. We talked about how Auburn went 0 for 13 on third down conversions against A&M. We went 1 for 10. So in SEC play, Texas A&M defense has allowed 1 third down conversion in 23 attempts. That's getting it done. They were 4 of 5 in the red zone. We're 1 of 1. They had 4 sacks. We had 1. Just kind of part of the deal. Looking at these individual numbers here, there's no point going over the passing numbers because they kind of are what they are. But we already discussed that. Reuben Owens, again, big game for him, 142 yards. And he is emerging as the primary back there. Moss, again, not quite 100%, just 36 yards. Craver goes 35 on 2. Fluff Bothwell, 14 carries for 60 yards, a long of 13. Davin Booth right there with him, 8 for 59. So average-wise, Booth, the better game. Of course, he had the long of 22, which could have nearly been a 70-yarder. Blake, 7 attempts for 36 loss. So that changes the complexity considerably, right? Receiving, Brennan Thompson, 2 grabs for 54 yards and the touchdown. Got to get him more involved. Obviously, he wasn't quite 100%. That's all part of it, too. Anthony Evans, 5 for 41. Aiden Williams, 3 for 25. And I think that's probably going to be your primary 3. Say, just 1 catch for now. We identified him last week as a guy that we thought could be a difference maker this week. We weren't able to get him to football. We just didn't really target him. Defensively, some guys stepping up. Jerron Manning, 13 tackles. And also a couple big plays in coverage, too. Jalen Smith, transfer in, 7 tackles. Nick Mitchell with 7. Tyler Lockhart, the true freshman, with 6. Lockhart may be playing his way into all SEC freshman team honors. Tony Mitchell, who played in place of Isaac Smith, with 5 tackles. Diesel Moy, a guy that many of our fans were down on, had 5 tackles. And, of course, he's a situational guy. Not going to play every down, but in short yardage, he does have a role in this team. 5 tackles, and, of course, he was a big part of the goal line stand down there. Brian Lanier having a good year for State with 4. Zachary Tillman with 4. Darian Gillette, Red Hibbler, Brandon Jennings, Jeray Bledsoe, all with 4. And a lot of these guys on defense are transfers. They're making plays for you. But that's kind of where things sit. We'll come back to our top 10 list and kind of take a look around the SEC. All right, time for today's top 10 list is always brought to you by Calido Guitars. That's Calido Guitars.com. Calido Guitars knows how to get things done. You owe it to yourself to do something nice for yourself. We do so much for so many other people. At times, we just kind of put ourselves last. And you know what? When you're dad, that's just in the daddy job description. But you know what? Maybe you need to just go ahead and reward yourself for all the time and effort you put in and get a new axe. You do. Whether you're looking for a classical guitar, an acoustic guitar, an electric guitar, a beginner's guitar, a mid-level guitar, a professional grade guitar, you can find it all at Calido Guitars. No matter your level of skill, no matter your financing, you can find it at Calido Guitars. And they don't just do guitars, even though it is primarily a guitar shop. They specialize in stringed instruments. So everything that you need, accessory-wise, gig bags and cables and strings, and anything you need, you can find. But primarily, you're going there for the guitar. And how many times do you order something online and you can't get somebody on the phone, right? That's not the case at Calido Guitars. This is a family-owned and operated business. The grandsons help run the guitar shop. They're Mississippi State people. Let's keep business in the family. You could buy a guitar from almost anywhere, but can you get a professionally set up guitar? You say, Steve, I can do it myself. Well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. But to have somebody have that level of care about your purchase, because let's be honest about this. Listen, I'm not a great guitar player. I love playing, but I'm not a great guitar player. But I love my instruments. I absolutely love my instruments. And I just feel like, hey, when I put those things in my hands, they're like my children. They're my babies. I take care of them. You need to take care of your instruments, and maybe it's time that you get a new baby. And they're going to give you some incentive, right? Promo code BSR. You can use it in person. You can use it over the phone. You can use it online. The BSR code unlocks a lot of savings for you. 10% discount right out of the chute. And that should be enough, but it's not. In addition to the 10% off, you get no shipping. You get no sales tax unless you live in the state of Texas. And they're going to make a 5% donation to your Mississippi State Excellence Fund. What a great incentive to do business with a Mississippi State company. So if you know a guitar player in your life or you are a guitar player, go check out CalidoGuitars.com today. All right, top 10 list. It's open week, so we're going to be kind of creative. This is my idea. You guys have sent some suggestions. We're still kind of getting to that, but this is my idea. For the open date, we're going to do top 10 songs with open chords. Yeah, so when you play guitar, right, there's open chords. And so there's some songs that you guys know that feature open chords. You kind of understand my line of thinking? Yeah, here we go. So number 10, it's Neil Young. And listen, I understand a Southern man doesn't need him around anyhow. But Heart of Gold is actually a good song. Open Chording featured. Number 9, a band that I loved. Man, growing up, I loved these guys. And I was thinking the other day, why don't I listen to them more often? It's America. And some of the guitar parts on this are very intricate and sophisticated. Not on this particular song. But some of the work deeper in the catalog, I think they are kind of underappreciated because everybody kind of labeled them as a folk band, and in many respects they were. But it's A Horse with No Name from America. Your number 9 track. Number 10, a song that was kind of made famous for a new generation by Guns N' Roses. Now, Guns didn't cover Bob Dylan. Guns covered Heaven's version of Knocking on Heaven's Door. But we're going to go back to the originator. What an incredible song. And I love the Guns version, don't get me wrong. But Bob Dylan's lyrical artistry deserves our reverence. Number 7, a song that you guys know very well. They still play it in college bars. And they still play it at the Tiki Lounge and places like that. It's Van Morrison's Brown-Eyed Girl. Great song. You can find some Counting Crows references to that song too. Everybody knows Van Morrison's Brown-Eyed Girl. Number 6, it's the legend. That's right. The felonious flower picker of Stark Vegas, it's Johnny Cash. We're going down the Ring of Fire. And again, open chording prominently featured throughout the song. Number 5, we could have gone a lot of different directions here because the Beatles had multiple tracks that featured open chording. And we're going to go with one that, I love it, and I think you guys do too. And if you've never watched Yesterday, I encourage you to do so. But it's Here Comes the Sun. Let It Be is also open chording. But Here Comes the Sun maybe doesn't get enough love, so we're going to throw that out there today as your number 5 track. Number 4, and this is kind of a difficult rhythm. The chording is rather simple, and it does feature some open chords, but it's a little more complicated than it may look like on sheet music, but it's CCR's Bad Moon Rising, or Bad Moon Rising, technically, is the title. But I think it's one you'll have some fun with. Number 3, and I love that Badlands covered this. You can't get this album. You can get it on eBay. It's very expensive, but it's not in print. There's a lot of things that go with that. But it's James Taylor's Fire and Rain. And to me, this is the James Taylor song. And there are some great James Taylor songs. But to me, this is the quintessential James Taylor song. Like if you say, Steve, what's the best James Taylor song of all time? This is it, Fire and Rain. And the older that I get, the more these lyrics matter to me, because you see a little bit of everything in life. I used to say, in my naivety of youth, that I had never had a bad day. I just hadn't lived long enough. You're going to have some bad days in life. You are. But you just got to keep moving. You got to do the Matthew McConaughey thing. Just keep living, man. You just got to keep living because things have a way of coming back around. It's true. Number 2, one of the more famous open chording songs of this generation. And I remember where I was the first time I heard it because I had the What's the Story Morning Glory album. And then all of a sudden, Wonderwall began to be a radio hit from Oasis. And just about everybody that owns an acoustic guitar has either aspired to play this or has learned to play this. And it's really not as complicated as you may think. But it's worth sitting down and kind of plucking out. But number 1, and this may surprise some people, considering the fact that you got 3 incredible guitar players playing on this thing. And it's funny, it's Neil Young at 10, it's Leonard Skinner at 1. It's Sweet Home Alabama with some open chording. Yeah, turn it up, man. It's true. So that's your top 10 list today featuring songs that feature open chording in honor of our open date. It's not a buy, it's an open date. Buys are for tournaments. Open dates are for schedules. just so you know. That's the correct nomenclature. But, yeah, some cool stuff, too. And I'm going to get to this. I have some people that say, Steve, I like it when you talk about life, too. I'm going to do that now before we get into the SEC stuff. And I had somebody recently in recovery that we talked about rigorous honesty. And we spoke about the importance of just being honest with people. Sometimes, you got to kind of keep your mouth shut, right? Sometimes honesty is maybe not the best policy when it comes to maintaining certain relationships. You can't always give an honest answer to a loaded question. Does that make sense? Because sometimes you're being jackpotted. You're being gaslit, right? So don't fall for that. But in true moments of candor, you got to be honest. And you mostly got to be honest with yourself. And I think that is one of the most difficult things to do, is to be honest with yourself. Because I know a lot of people, and I used to be a person like this. It's true. I used to be the kind of person that I didn't like who I was. So I created this, persona, I guess you could say. And I fooled a lot of people for a long time. I faked it a long time. And that's one of the things in recovery they talk about. You like fake it till you make it, And at some point, though, you got to make it. You can't keep faking it. And there are a lot of people, listen, I know some people, and again, when you work a program of rigorous honesty, you can smell BS a mile away. Because you kind of get the feeling when people aren't being honest with you. That's an important aspect of it. But one of the questions that I asked this person, and it was about somebody else. It wasn't gossiping. It was somebody that they loved. And they're like, man, it's like I think they're just going to lie their way through life. And at some point, the truth will just slap you in the face. You can outrun it for a while, but eventually it catches up with you. It's true. Even people in politics. It's true. And so the question that I told them is, I said, what would they be if they stopped faking it? What would they be? And more importantly, who would they be if they stopped faking it? Because here's what happens. As you fake it, number one, you begin to kind of rot away because you're faking it. And I think the most dangerous part of it is when you fake it and then you buy into your own BS, because then you attract all these people, right? And they begin to think, okay, well, this is who they really are. And you're so afraid they're going to find out that that's not who you are. And so you just kind of whistle past the graveyard, just hoping you're never going to get exposed. That's just no way to live. It's no way to live. And I will tell you, basically, in my 30s, and I'm getting old now. I get it. This is the coolest version of me that's ever been. But I'm an older guy. I am. I know this. I've accepted that. I don't feel old. I don't think I look that old, but I am old. But the reality of it is in my 30s, I went through this kind of existential crisis of sorts, kind of figuring out who I was and what mattered to me and what my values were. And so I went to all these different churches, different denominations, different religions. I read all these religious texts, and I said, I just want to know who I am, what I believe, why I believe it. Is this really what I believe or what I've just been taught? And I'm just regurgitating what everybody else has told me over the years. And so I went through all of that. And the thing that I found at the end of it is that I was not living an authentic life. That's not to say that I was a poser, but I really wasn't being true to me and who I was supposed to be. And it really changed my life when I got to that realization. And there are some people that haven't gotten there yet. I'm not sitting here in judgment. I'm just kind of telling you, there's a lot of people around us that they will BS their way through life as long as they can. That's one of the reasons that I work as hard as I do. And you guys kind of benefit from my obsession with that because I want to be the genuine article. And that's one of the things Jacob Bain and I talked about on the way to A&M. And he's like, man, I'd enjoy going to all these road games. And I said, well, I do too. I do too. Do you know how many Heisman winners that I've covered in person, or games like that I've covered in person. How many places that I've been? And it's like I think to myself, that's not the ego aspect of it. That's the demand of the job. But it's not just the professional part of it. It's the personal part of it. My whole attitude about life is either you're going to be all the way in or you're going to be all the way out. It's just like everybody's seen the Karate Kid, right? What does Mr. Miyagi tell us when he tells Daniel, when they first make the little agreement that we're going to teach karate? He's either you karate do or you karate don't. If you stay in the middle, then, right? Remember that? That's profound words for living. Either you're in or you're not. It's like the old adage out there. I don't know who came up with it. I'm sure it was some rapper of the last 20 years. It's like everybody wants to be gangster until it's time to be gangster. Like I see these people out here that are so incredibly vanilla and benign in what they do. It's like, well, I got to remind everybody how hood I am. Well, number one, you're not hood, okay? You're not. I don't care what the meme looks like. That's not who you are. You say, but Steve, it's a joke. But it's not. The joke is on them. Those are my feelings, And so, I have done some things in my life that I am not proud of. Years and years ago. But it kind of helped me figure out who I was. And so I share that with you because that's the question that I want to ask you. Is who would you be if you stopped faking it? If you were just really honest with yourself and the people around you, who would you be? Where would that take you? It's like I think about a great example of that. A very kind of silly, sophomoric example of that is the Seinfeld episode with George Costanza, right? When he says, if every impulse I've had has been wrong, I'm going to do the opposite. And it was really about him kind of being honest, instead of him just kind of BSing his way through. And next thing you know, he's working for the New York Yankees because he tells George Steinbrenner, you've made our beloved Yankees a laughingstock, George really believed those things. And so he just became honest about it. And that's kind of a silly example. But what if that person that you're constantly having to walk on eggshells around, what if you just said, hey, and you can be direct without being mean. What if you just said it? And how good it feels to just finally say it? You're only hurting yourself because you're being dishonest. And withholding the truth, a lie of omission is the same as a lie of commission. Except it really only hurts the person that's withholding it. So I guess that's really the challenge that I would have for people is live an authentic life and just be honest. There's no point. Like if you're in one of these relationships, and we're talking about romantic relationships where everybody's having to fake it to stay together, nobody's happy. You're not happy, they're not happy. Well, what will the neighbors think? Who cares? There's so many people that I know that are going, and listen, when they ask, I tell them. But I got so many people that are just BSing their way through this thing, and everybody is miserable. Everybody is miserable. And it's just like, well, I'm going to keep going to a job that I hate because I got to pay the bills. And listen, I get it. I do. But life is long. Death is certain. Why choose to lead a life of misery? And a lot of it just boils down to us being honest with ourselves. I'm not saying be irresponsible, but if there's somebody in your life that you can be honest with, I just encourage you to go open your mouth. We want to talk about like the leading causes for suicide and addiction and alcoholism and infidelity and all the stuff that happens in our life. Just about every bit of it comes from the fact that people cannot be honest. They feel like nobody will listen to them or buy into them. It's like, and I got a friend of mine, man, like if you saw his life through the lens of Instagram, you would think, man, this guy is killing the game. He's got this hot wife, goes to the gym every day, takes care of herself, these amazing kids. They got all these toys and stuff they can play with, and they can go down to the reservoir and all this. Man, if you just saw that, you would say, man, that's the life I aspire to have. Let me tell you this, that guy was absolutely miserable. Miserable. And that's what we do, right? We clean up the front entrance, so everybody thinks, right, oh, this is a great place, but you don't want to go look in the warehouse. Clean out your warehouse. Make the warehouse to be just as appealing as the front entrance. And again, it just goes back to living a life of authenticity. And so I share that with you because I know there's somebody out there that needs to hear that. Stop BSing your way through life. That's just no life to live. No matter how difficult it may be, it's one of those things that they put this on the back of the AA chips. And if I can survive 2 more months, I'll pick up 34 years. But it says, to thine own self be true. Now there's a difference between being selfish, putting like yourself in front of your kids and, everybody else around you that depend on you. There's a difference in that. There's a difference between abandonment, right? Abandoning your responsibilities and things of that nature. I get it. There's a lot of people out there that'll tell you, do what makes you happy. Happiness is a temporary emotion. Right? We got to have some responsibility. But if you were entangled in something, really a web of your own deceit, I encourage you to get out of it. And the best way to do that is just simply be honest. Be honest about what you feel. Be honest about what you want to do. Be honest. I'm a fan of uncomfortable conversations because uncomfortable conversations allow us to get the real issue out. But I can promise you, most people around you, they're not prepared to have them. And they're certainly not going to start them. But if something's eating your lunch, you got to get it out there. You got to get it out there. It becomes like a cancer and begins to fester, and it only grows. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. We love Campus Bookmart. And why? Because they have the things we want, right? We can't get enough Mississippi State merch. Whether you're looking for apparel, gift ideas, housewarming gifts, everything you need to detail out your fan cave, you can find it at Campus Bookmart. Next time you're in town, go by and see their smiling faces. You may get a complimentary hug. I always do. I don't think it's just me. If you can't make it to town and would like to support a Starkville business, and we're certainly in favor of that, visit them at campusbookmart.net, courtesy of Al Gore's Internet, and use promo code BSR. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than $75, absolutely incomplete. That's Campus Bookmart, the best place to go for all your Mississippi State merchandising needs. All right, let's look around the weekend it was in the Southeastern Conference. Oklahoma wins 44-0. They don't cover, though. And it's interesting, you're kind of working through this, what this means for next week, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But Oklahoma now 5-0 and really in a good position to make the playoff. They truly are. The Golden Flash is not really going anywhere. They're 1-4, 0-3 on the road. I don't know what you'd expect from them, but Nick Saban's not walking out of that tunnel. Golden Flashes. But Oklahoma, again, the Red River Shootout this weekend, and what a great weekend for State to have an open date. We get to watch a ton of great college football. But Texas is favored in this ball game. And a lot of it centers around Mateer, the quarterback at Oklahoma. Will he play? Will he not play? We'll see. Then Oklahoma goes to South Carolina. They host Ole Miss. They're at Tennessee. They're at Alabama, hosting Missouri and LSU. So they're going to earn it. Down the stretch. Again, Texas, the preseason number 1, no longer ranked. Rivalry game, tough road environment at South Carolina, and then 4 straight top 25 opponents. So Oklahoma, off to a good start, going to have to play even better down the stretch. Florida, and I almost picked Florida. I almost talked myself into this because things have been so precarious with Arch Manning. But DJ Lagway has not been, kind of the model of consistency either. Big ball game for Lagway, 21 of 28, 298 yards and a couple touchdowns. And they had that opening drive. They just went right down the field like a knife through butter. Very impressive game for them. We'll see how things go, but Napier has at least bought himself a couple of weeks. I think if he had lost this game, you might have a decision to make. The Gators now 2-3, but they get Texas. And again, Texas was a very vulnerable team. They go all the way out. They're 3-2. They drop all the way out of the top 25. But we've talked about this Florida team, and we had that as a loss. They travel to A&M this week. Then they come to State. Then it's Georgia, at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Florida State. So 5 of the next 7 opponents, top 25. I don't think Napier's out of the sticks. Alabama, kind of a backdoor cover here. What a bad beat for the gamblers, right? Alabama was favored by 10, 10.5 according to most books. They were up 9 on the final drive, and you wondered if they would kick on that 4th down play. They like to go for it, and they break loose for a touchdown. Ty Simpson, outstanding in this ballgame. 23 of 31 for 340 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Really, all Alabama in many respects in the second half is 14 all at the break. And one of the things I'll tell you, too, we talk about like culture and reputation and tradition. To the Alabama fan that chose to like trash talk Vanderbilt as they walked off the field at Bryant-Denny, that's really a confession of how far you feel like your program has fallen, that you want to verbally attack Diego Pavia. And I understand he said a lot of things in the media. I get it. I understand that. But I also think it shows that maybe Alabama is not Alabama. The mystique is not there anymore when their own fans feel the need to do that. I don't know. I think it's uncouth to use the term. Georgia and Kentucky. Kentucky nearly with a backdoor cover. Can't quite get it done. I mentioned last week, if I was Kentucky, the last place that I would want to go is Athens, Georgia. I wouldn't go to Athens, Texas either, but Athens, Georgia. And right out of the gate, it's Georgia, right? It's 21-7 at the break, and then Georgia puts it away in the third. It's a 35-7 game, and then Kentucky scores late in the last 2 minutes. It was a 20.5 spread, I think. And so Georgia covers by the skin of their teeth, but Georgia also a big win there. And you start thinking about, again, Kentucky's bowl prospects. And I wish we played them this year. It's just so interesting that they're so offensively challenged. But you're 2-3 now, and you've already played a couple non-conference games. You got a couple of them out there just kind of floating around. But the Texas game, you get the open date this week, and you got Texas. You never know what kind of shape they're going to be in. But I think, too, about the Arch Manning aspect. I think about what Dan Mullen went through against Stoops, because Stoops and runs those bear fronts and those odd fronts, and at times they'll run, a 50. They want to negate the quarterback run and make you do things that make you uncomfortable. You already have a quarterback in Arch Manning that doesn't appear very comfortable in his own skin right now. And again, so many people heaped so many expectations on his shoulders. He's never going to live up to the hype. Never. But he's got to go and play play Kentucky. In Lexington. It's a weird place to play against a weird defensive front that makes you adjust a lot on the fly. That's asking a lot. That could be interesting. Then Kentucky gets Tennessee. Then they're at Auburn. Florida comes to their place. Tennessee Tech. That should be a dub. At Vandy. You can't count that. Then you're at Louisville. There's just not many prospects. You're counting games at Kentucky, and I think the buyout's like $34 million. So what does that mean? Could be a very active year when it comes to coaching changes in the SEC. I mean, what if Florida goes off the rails here? You got to make a change there. What if Kentucky misses a bowl game again? You have to make a change there. I don't know. I think Brent Venables has probably put himself in a good situation, though. All right, looking ahead to this weekend, take our first look at the weekend. We're going to open up 11 a.m. game, Alabama at Missouri. Now, the Tide's favored by 2.5 on the road. The over-under is 51.5. I would probably take the over. I think Missouri can score. I'm quite confident Alabama can. It'll be interesting, though. That's going to be a fun game. We're going to kick off our open date with some barn burners of games. 11:45 on the network. Ole Miss at home, favored by 32.5 against Washington State, fresh off an open date at Washington State. I mean, what do they have? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like, and Trinidad Chambliss has been really good as the starter. Lacey has been outstanding, one of the better running backs in the conference. And Ole Miss now currently rated 4th in the country. They're going to win. Do they cover? Well, we'll talk about that later in the week. We talked about the Red River Shootout. Texas favored by 2.5 in Cotton Bowl. It's a neutral site game. Wouldn't it be fun if we could score some tickets on our open date and just ride over there and just knock that off the bucket list? What if we could go to the Red River rivalry game? I mean, and not have like a rooting interest, just go for the sake of loving college football. It'd be great. I'm looking forward to kind of vegetating this weekend and kind of just watching it all unfold. Arkansas at Tennessee. The Volunteers favored by 12.5. Of course, Sam Pittman's already been fired. I'm eager to kind of see, with Arkansas having an open date, what does Bobby Petrino cook up for Tennessee? Of course, he wants that game. He wants the gig there at Arkansas again, which is so weird. It's so weird how that worked out. But Tennessee 4-1. They got some war daddies over there. Can Arkansas secondary match up with Tennessee? I don't think they can. Tennessee favored by 12.5. All right, A&M at home against Florida. We discussed kind of the Florida situation. And again, A&M just kind of sneaky. Are they good enough to make the playoff? Yes. I don't think they're good enough to win the national championship. But what's interesting about this, Florida will kind of cap a 3-game homestand for them. They beat Auburn. They beat Mississippi State, obviously. And they get Florida 6 p.m. against in front of a national audience. So that could be an interesting ball game. A lot of eyeballs on that one. The next week, they travel to Arkansas. But that's the Jerry World game, so it's not really it's one of my favorite games. Then you got to go to LSU, then Missouri. So after this 3-game homestand finishes up, 3 games away from the friendly confines of Kyle Field, and then you close it out with South Carolina, Samford, and then at Texas. Could be a very interesting stretch for them. But if you begin to kind of think about what we know about Florida, Florida's very athletic. Florida's had some quarterback problems. Arkansas's fired their coach. LSU can't run the football. So you feel like, hey, that's 3 winnable games. I think you should beat Florida. I think you should win at Arkansas. And even though it's at Tiger Stadium, I think you should win that one too. But I think that LSU team is flawed offensively. All of a sudden you look up, Texas is 8-0. I mean, A&M's 8-0. With 4 games to play, and only one of those teams ranked in the top 25, that's Missouri. Should they beat South Carolina at Kyle Field? Yes. Should they beat Samford? Yes. You're talking about a 10-win Texas A&M team, potentially 11. But if they go 10-2, are they good enough to get into the playoffs? I think that's one of the reasons this game is so big, because of the fact that you're gonna play 4 of your last 6 away from Kyle Field. You got to win this one. You feel pretty confident about the other 2 home games, but you got to win this one. I just wonder, at some point, Marcel Reed, I think, is going to cost him a game, though. That's how I feel. Georgia's at Auburn. Now, Auburn has had some struggles, but maybe they're not as bad as their record indicates. And listen, I know Jackson Arnold has struggled. We've been very hard on him on the show. But you go back and look at this. They win at Baylor 38-24. They blow out Ball State. They get South Alabama 31-15. That was the first time that the offensive bugaboos kind of showed up. They lose by 7 at Oklahoma. And then lose by 6 to A&M. Now, they weren't great offensively in either game, but those are one-score games. You've had the benefit of the open date, chance to kind of settle some things, find out what Jackson Arnold's good at, maybe simplify things. Then you get Georgia coming to your place. One of the better rivalry games in the conference. But it's a tall order. That Georgia pass rush is good too. Then you got Missouri at home. That could be a dicey one. Then you got to go to Arkansas. You'd like to have that game at home. Then you got Kentucky at home, and who knows what they're going to look like then. Then Vandy. But the schedule kind of flips for them down the stretch. You get through Georgia, and you really only have one ranked opponent for 3 weeks there. And then you close with Vandy, Mercer, and Alabama. There is a pathway forward to be bowl eligible. There is a pathway to maybe win 7 or 8. But you got to figure out some offensive stuff. They have the offensive skill. I think that offensive line has looked worse because of Jackson Arnold. But if you can get Jackson Arnold on track, you got a chance to make a little racket down the stretch. You could wreck somebody else's season. I just don't like those road trips to Arkansas and to Vanderbilt. I think those are difficult games for a team that's trying to find a sense of itself. But the next 2 are at home. And maybe you figure some things out. I don't think it's going to happen this week. But, year 1, Hugh Freeze gave Georgia all the trouble they wanted and then some. Finally, the final game of the night, South Carolina at LSU. Again, I think this LSU team is flawed. They're favored by 9.5 in the game. That's probably about right. I think South Carolina, of course, they've had, the sour stuff's kind of been up and down. But South Carolina is a team, obviously, that has some talent. Do they have enough talent to go to Baton Rouge and win without LSU's help? That's the real challenge. I think South Carolina makes a game of this, but, we'll see how things go. But when you start thinking about the gauntlet these guys are facing, South Carolina has 5 straight top 15 opponents. LSU is 11. Everybody else is ranked in the top 10. Then you finish up with Coastal and Clemson. So it's a gauntlet now. The first 5 games were probably the easiest, and that includes the road trip to Missouri, and you went 3-2. And now, these final 7 outside of Coastal Carolina, and the Clemson games are rivalry games, so you can throw that out. But these next 5 games probably as challenging as anybody in the Southeastern Conference has. And then you look at the LSU side of things, it's kind of crazy how that all sets up too. They're 4-1, and again, they had some offensive problems way back in week 2. South Carolina then at Vanderbilt. Would you want to take this LSU team to Vanderbilt? That sounds crazy. I think that's a tough environment. I think Vandy probably is licking their chops saying, hey, we can get these guys. And then you get A&M, top 5. Then you got to go to Bama. But then you close out Arkansas, Western Kentucky, and Oklahoma. I could see a scenario where LSU splits these last 7 or 8 games. Is 8-4 going to sit well in Baton Rouge? No. No, it's not. A lot of pressure, I think, to win this ball game this week. So, again, it's a great weekend for us to have an open date because it's all SEC competition except for the Ole Miss and Washington State game, and that's still a Power 4 game. I think that's probably a game that Ole Miss will win handily. But a lot of entertaining games, and so many of these are spreads that are under 10 points. So, should be a great weekend of football for all of us. Final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle when you're bringing a large group to town. Great, great, great place to go stay. We've stayed there, plenty of parking. You got the full-service kitchen, the wet bar, the great back porch area, the fire pit area, so many great things to get excited about. And you've always thought about how cool would it be to have everybody under one roof? Well, it's possible. Instead of you having everybody come to town for a ball game weekend or a midweek trip to spend some vacation time, take in maybe the men's basketball game and the women's basketball game, just kind of enjoy being in Starkville, you can do it. Instead of having everybody scattered around in 5 Airbnbs and hotels, you get everybody together under one roof and have a great time together. You'll be glad you did. Now, Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. When you do, their Facebook page will auto-populate. You can peruse all the pictures of all the amenities available to you and your guest. 6 bedrooms, 2 bath. just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. You can do your tailgating right there, go to the ball game, come back, and sit around and watch some more college football. It would be great, right? When you Google, the booking options pop up too. You can go Airbnb or VRBO if you want to, but if you want to save some money, book through the Evolve website and use promo code BSR10. That's BSR10. Gets you 10% off your stay. Yeah, if it's free, it's me. Again, the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. All right, finally, some recruiting news. You're beginning to see some announcements about some decommitments on the football side. And for those of you that are regular listeners of this show, you understand I had prepared you for this. And of course, there are some people that don't listen to this show or listen to you. And so we've got some people in the Facebook groups and some people on Twitter that aren't as knowledgeable as we are. And they're kind of freaking out. They don't understand. Oh, we lost this game. The class is leaving. As we've mentioned, the roster constraints are something because of the 5 years of eligibility is expected to pass. Not to mention, we're going to have to be somewhat reliant on the portal again this year because of the fact we're going to play 9 SEC games. Our high school players, the Tyler Lockharts of the world don't come around very often. You know, a guy comes in and plays meaningful snaps in SEC play as a true freshman. It just doesn't happen very often. And so what's going to make us better? Signed a bunch of high school guys. We were pretty much full, right? You know, save a few scholarships for the portal, and we need to make some room. And there's some guys out there that haven't played well as seniors, and so you got to make some adjustments. And so as we record the show tonight, there have been 2 that have made their declarations. There will be others. It's not going to be a bunch, but there's going to be others. Jeff Lebby having those conversations himself. We have confirmed that with the players, that it wasn't like they just sent him a Dear John letter or had some low-level staffer call and say, hey, we're moving on. Jeff Lebby himself made the call. This is the right time to do it. December, it's dead. Those guys wouldn't be able to take visits. So you tell them now so they have all of October and all of November to take visits to find a landing spot for themselves. That is the merciful thing to do, and I commend Jeff Lebby for having those difficult conversations now. If you put it off, you're only going to make people angry. And if you saw Tamario Johnson's post, and I hate it because I like him so much. I hate that he's not going to be a part of it, but I get it. And he puts out, I've got nothing but respect for Mississippi State's coaches, players, and program, and I want to thank them for believing in me first. And we really kind of kicked off his recruiting. He does have some other opportunities. And now that they're all public, and there'll be some more that'll announce on Tuesday and Wednesday, you were prepared, okay? And so I just shared that with you. A lot of people out there, and it's, again, there's all these pot shots and rival fans. That's part of being a rivalry. Who cares, right? But it's kind of moved forward. But we didn't lose these guys. They lost us. And that's one of the reasons I've been talking about this for a couple of weeks, to kind of prepare you guys so there wouldn't be this overreaction from some people. We've processed some people out of the class. And unfortunately, that's how life works. You know, just people say, well, these kids aren't true to their word. You know, well, sometimes we aren't either. Everybody has to make a decision that they feel is best for them in their future. So that's to be understood. On Tuesday, too, we expect a baseball commitment. I've already interviewed him. We'll have the story ready to go. And we're going to let him announce on his own timing. He says it could be any time tomorrow. It could be in the morning, the afternoon, or evening. But the reality of it is we do have another baseball commitment coming. Matter of fact, I'm expecting another one later in the week. He has not finalized the plans yet. But a lot of times what happens with these baseball commitments, and it's sometimes like that in football too, is they want to tell the coaches. They want to, before it goes public, and I think that's the way to do it if you can, is to notify the coaches so they're not finding out on social media. I think that is the gentlemanly and mature way to go about things. So sometimes it takes a little while after they have announced their commitment to their school to let everybody else know, to get everybody on the phone, and some guys end up having to just kind of text and let people know. But we are not going to rob a young man of the joy of announcing their decision. It's a different day and time. So, again, look for one baseball commitment on Tuesday and potentially another one later in the week. And, again, we're working through all that, and we'll provide you coverage and reaction and things of that nature. But nevertheless, enjoy the open date. this week and enjoy watching some college football. We'll be back on Wednesday. We'll meet with Jeff Levy and selected players Tuesday and have that full coverage over at genespage.com for free. Yeah, Big Room stuff is always free at Gene's Page. So make that your one-stop shop for all your Mississippi State news and notes. And if you hadn't floated, come do so at True Rest Floats by Starkville. I floated for about 2 hours yesterday. Kind of rejuvenated me, allowed my body and mind to rest after a long trip. A lot of windshield time kind of makes the shoulders and the hips feel a little bit stiff, and I don't want that. So I went and floated. You can come get some relaxation and rest too. Dial 662-268-7601. You can speak directly to my lovely wife, Dana. She can answer any questions you may have. Also, packages available if you want to bring a guest or perhaps give that as a gift. That's a good idea too. And visit DutyNobleBook.com. You get signed copies of all my sports titles. That's Duty Noble, The Dude, Flim Flam, Stark Villains, Alpha Dogs, Dogpile, and of course the personal memoir, When the Bottom Falls. But hey, let's have a great week, and we'll be back with you on Wednesday. And for those of you that are members of Gene's Page, we look forward to seeing you around the message boards the rest of the week. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.